home.
Like.
Well, we've had breakfast, so I'm off home. Actually, I know a cheap place in Woolies.
I said to him, I can go now to McDonald's for
Oh,
lovely.
good job we had breakfast before we came.
Let's see what the breakfast has for breakfast.
Yes. Well, I usually have this for breakfast. You know how it is.
But then the opportunity she had to say something was gone because they were supposed to meet for her to go with him to Victoria. Never came. Because he was thinking again, huh? Exactly. Exactly. He's so nice. They spent the whole weekend.
But
this is where
Members of the Empire.
It's really like that here, isn't it?
But there's nobody who knows
with the funkos above. See? It's so negative.
There it goes.
Pulling on it.
First prize. 2,550,000. First prize.
That is not signed. She helped me to plan.
Oh, I see.
She helped me to plan certainly. This breakfast. Actually, you see black.
And he's married.
I think I have to contact him about the wedding. I still have to come very nice.
Where does Mem live? Where?
Something happened after.
Probably happened
Before you
early in April. Because I heard him say, I'm sorry. They don't usually say.
They don't.
I started this at Christmas.
I like that not to be. Oh, she wants it in the back. I think
This
it's
is it,
healthy,
folks.
not too much. Not so much.
She's not used to that.
No. That's perfect.
1, 2, 3.
No, he didn't.
Steady.
Oh,
Something hasn't happened.
there's nothing in there.
Nothing happened.
It takes a bit long, doesn't it?
Come out on the back in the background.
Probably would. Look at that.
Keep it too slow. Very slow. Yes, slow, otherwise you're all shifting.
This is it.
What you did? Just small, do one small.
Wow.
And then
It's the birthday.
Amazing.
Dave's birthday.
just slowly.
What's she doing? 50 going on to 20s.
Unfortunately, Dave turned up yesterday when I started doing things. And we had to really rush. Put everything under the stairs and everything. Anyway, she's always going to come a bit later on. And we have lots of friends coming too. A lot of preparation to do. This is going to be one of the main things. It's going to be a lovely surprise for Dave when he opens this book up. And he's just going to love that. I can get into focus. You know, I guess I'm no photographer like Dave. But there's so much in that book. He's going to love it. Right, let's go into the kitchen and just see what's happening there. Not much in this bit. There's my little doggy. He wonders what's going on today. There's some flowers, but it's actually for Rachel's birthday. Right, now we're going to come in the kitchen, and who do we see in here working? Where's Mary Stewart? Mary, what are you
It's
making?
no wonder you're such a good friend of Dave Armstrong.
That looks very interesting.
Yes.
Can you tell me what it's going to be?
This is what's it called? Coronation chicken.
Mary's specialty.
Mary's special. And I'm sure Dave's going to appreciate it, and I'm sure we're all going to enjoy that.
It's called Stuart coronation chicken.
There's Christine cutting up in bits and pieces. Hope she doesn't cut her fingers as well.
Yeah, Dave, what do you think of this then, eh? All working away like beavers just for you.
You don't even know it's happening.
I bet you do, really.
I should think you expect
Some
another
little birdie's told you.
meal after that
You're
morning
pretending
breakfast.
you don't
up in
know.
town.
We can't even think about food, really.
You're just so full up from that breakfast.
It certainly was pretty good, wasn't it?
Do you have another?
But it's now just about an hour before time, and we've still got a lot to do. So gradually we're getting the chairs ready. Anyway, one of our first visitors to come is Al.
Thank you, Dave.
If that isn't hot enough, I'll make you a new cup.
Thanks, Dave, very much. It's lovely, it's fine.
Would you believe it? First thing Alf does is have a cup of tea.
Good help.
Good to see you, Al.
Good to see you, Keith. Good help. That's what they call down the hatch.
And Brenda, nice to see you.
Yeah.
Hello, Dave. Yes, nice to see you.
Okay, we're hoping for a crowd to come soon. You're the first.
What a coincidence that we were down in Bromley at the dance today.
Amazing that is, that's really good.
It was remarkable, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just the one day in the year.
And who's this that's kept in front? Who's this? Oh, Tommy. Right. Right, let's have another look at the food, see how the food's coming on. Come on, Mary, how are you doing?
I'm just slaving away here.
Oh gosh, it doesn't seem much different than it did earlier.
Well, we've just been slaving away all day. It's a good thing we had a good breakfast this morning to sustain us.
Well, what have you done with all
We
the food?
haven't stopped.
Is that
Mary.
Dave Armstrong worth it, I ask myself?
I've been asking myself that many times today.
But could you tell me what you've done with the food?
It's a very interesting sight in there, Keith.
Gosh, look at that, it looks good.
And what about in the shower,
The middle
Keith?
there.
What about in the shower?
Well, I think I had a shower there this morning.
Sorry, can't get it out.
Oh gosh, I need my foot in it.
No, that's right. You nearly put his foot in it. And you put your foot in that coronation chicken. Oh, man.
Well, that looks a treat. I wonder if everyone will eat it. They know that it's where we
We
stored it.
just won't tell them.
I better not show that.
Well, mind you, come right in. Act as though you live here. You think you're a tree, don't you? You're all right. Well, I never. Oh, knock on the door. Action replay. You want to get around the corner, try it again?
Come on in, Dave.
Right, here we come.
Here he is, the man of the moment. David Armstrong!
You both being here. What did I say after that? Baloney, this, isn't it? And more people, they're pouring in by the minute. Well, you're not 50 every day, are you? Having said that, you're 50 every day. Yeah, that's right. Oh, very good. Is that one of these rude ones? No. Well, isn't that especially nice to see? And some of it is steam bed. What a good idea. I'm going to put this up here. I'm going that way. Follow me now.
You go slowly.
Action replay.
Hey, Dave.
Goodness me.
There's someone else at the door, David.
Not someone else. Should I go and see who's at the
Go
door?
and have a look.
It's not Father Christmas, is it? Oh, goodness me.
Don't let the dog get them.
He'll have you. Oh, no, the Waileys. Oh, no. Come on in. Hi. And welcome. Thank you. Oh, David. Look at that. Oh, I see. You would have considered coming. Well, hold on. Hold on. Well, give our love to Margaret.
She's on the phone with
Oh, she's on the phone too. Hi, namaste. Mensa. Sabti hai. Well, this is really. I'm overwhelmed by all this. I'm just about to faint, but I'll do it gently. She is fine and in the kitchen. I will do that. Thank you very much, Lal and Margaret. Au revoir, thank you. Isn't that nice? Boy.
Bring it from work.
Canada. Well, that was something, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, look. What a guy. So that's greetings from Lal and Margaret Relica.
Good.
Remember, we went out to India with Lal.
That's right.
Then he met Margaret in Bombay, got married and took her back to Canada. So Margaret is Indian.
Their family?
He was
Their family?
Oh yeah. In fact, this guy was at their eldest daughter's wedding last year in Canada. Yeah.
Say something, Dave.
That's
Don't be
something,
stuck
Dave.
with words.
Wait a minute. Let's see who else is here. Oh, look at this! They're pouring in, folks. Look at this.
Oh, the birthday boy!
What is that? I can't get over this. If this is a taste of being 50, I'm going to enjoy it. Wow! Hi there. Look at that. Nice. I feel like a real celebrity. Yeah, you are. I know.
Boy,
Wow.
and you can look later on, and all of them, they have been a part of your life.
He was never a little.
And thank you all.
Well, Snooky. Oh, the idol of my life.
Yes, I must say you have been a blessing to many, and tonight we want to be a blessing to you.
Well, better than this is your life. This is your wife, I think.
Come on in.
Hello.
Oh, look at this thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Happy birthday to
me. Oh.
It's your time.
Your barrel to come in.
Well, I thought we couldn't have missed it really, because I know Beryl in particular would have really missed it.
Well, I've met you before, haven't I?
I
think I have. Yeah, I'm sure.
He's giving lessons or he's taking lessons? Shall we also, this would have
Taking lessons.
He's taking. Oh, I see.
If you were giving us.
We're going to take out our greedy moments.
I must get a knife.
I think a knife would be helpful.
Good to keep in touch. Oh, they've all come in now.
On the book of photographs, it's like Snooky's book here, isn't it?
Quite something, David.
Yeah.
What's it feel like to be a hero for a day?
Well, I've never known this. Every stone.
When I went,
So it is very interesting.
I felt I wanted to give you, well, everyone's giving you presents, but I wanted to give you the biggest present. Okay? So there's a little present, especially for me. Please forgive the paper, but I couldn't get any birthday paper that big, so I had to use a bit of Christmas paper.
Well,
So Dave, if you'd like to open that.
let's bring out here.
Mind the candle behind you.
Yeah, imagine you tie, Dave.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
No.
See what's going to happen here.
Do I open it or pass it on when the music starts? I knew it. Can't get into it. Yes, take that one, thank you. Oh, very good. Cuts to the heart. Oh, Swiss knife. Just mine.
And then the other, second pregnant.
Pass it back. Yet another one. It is past the parcel. Oh my goodness me. Genuine Napoleon branded. Oh, it's an empty one. What would Burr have said about that?
Wesley Ellen.
Wesley Ellen.
With best wishes, George Burwood.
It's one of these 4-in-1 pack.
Well, it's getting a bit slower now.
May not have been
Getting a bit older.
certainly the longest one to unwrap. Taking your time, aren't you, Davey?
Well, when you reach my age, what do you expect?
Ah, hey. Didn't take him long to start making excuses for himself.
That wallpaper, David.
Yes, this is good wallpaper. Quality stuff. Yet another one inside.
Just what you want, exactly.
It's not Andrex after all.
You're making a mess,
You're
David.
dropping things, Dave.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, a nifty 50 today. I think it's one of these magnetic ones. Only stick onto my head. What's this? Yet another one. Oh, look at this.
You always wanted.
Always wanted.
Yeah. Passes that knife again.
Again, no, I didn't really struggle this time.
Much better.
Dave, that's got all day. Gosh.
Oh! Surprise, surprise. Anything else? What's that say?
No, it's only a bit of poo. Let me worry then.
This big press is getting very small, isn't it?
Little messages on the way for you, Dave.
Oh no, I don't believe that. This is actually a personal story. Oh, there is, eh? Not far now.
You are getting there, Dave.
Actually.
Oh, come on, quick.
Don't ruin it, Dave. It's very valuable.
Well, you see, this means nothing to you, but it actually does mean something to me. Because this, is this the very one?
The very one.
Man alive. I think it's Multi. The original OM India dog.
Don't let the dog in.
There is something further down in there, isn't there?
Put it on.
That is actually the thing itself.
I'll tell you the story about this.
Yes, he must tell us. In fact, I think what would be good,
Without
we've got
wallpaper.
such a crowd of witnesses here. It might be a good thing if a few of us who've got some little OM anecdotes up their sleeve share one or two little stories. I think that would be very good. So think, all of you. We'll have to limit it to a couple of minutes, of course, because Alf's here, and when Alf
Alf will only start after he's had a cup of tea.
don't give it to him yet. Tinkle.
Celestial fluid.
That's right, celestial. But Keith must tell you the story about this one.
You tell the story about the other.
He's not sure. He doesn't know what it is.
It's not 40 bars of chocolate, is it?
40?
Well, you will explain the story. Great day. Tupperware. Maybe we're here for a Tupperware party.
I think Dave knows what's in there.
Could only go in there. Today, sorry, it's only 12 small Kit Kats instead of the original 100 big ones. It was 40, it wasn't 100 big. So,
Dave never could count.
now, he will tell you the story of this.
When we were going
This
out,
takes us back to 1965 when we went to India.
65, yeah. We were just leaving for India. We were going from Forest Hill, and I was delayed in going. And so Dave went on a couple of hours before me in the van, and I had to hitchhike. And so I asked Dave if he could take a little bag for me, because I thought, well, you know, it's a bit heavy, you know, carrying it on the way to Zaventem, where I was going to catch up with him. So anyway, this case went ahead, and in it was my sheepskin coat. Oh, hang on. 3705. 3705. Hello? I wanted to take this to India because on the way to India it gets very, very cold in Iran, Turkey. I mean, if you thought that snow was cold the other days, it's nothing like that in Tehran, in Turkey. Is it, Mike? You've made the journey. Ooh. Going up the mountain, it's absolutely freezing, so I thought this would be just nice. So I put this in this coat, in this bag. Also, one of my prayer partners, a young lady, knew I liked chocolate, and I was a bit of a chocolate soldier. She gave me 100 bars of Kit Kat, a proper box of Kit Kat. And so this was in there as well.
This is not the real one. It's not the original. The original one thing. Hey, wait a minute. It's shrunk. It's shrunk.
I'll tell you why he got so fat. Because not only did he take that, but the chocolate as well. You see the 100 bars. When I got to Zaventem, I said, has Dave left me a case? And they all said, no, Dave's gone. He's gone off to India. And there's no case. And I asked here and I asked there, and everyone said the same thing. I said, well, no, Dave would leave it. I know he would. He wouldn't steal it. Anyway, someone else I met, and they said, that's funny. Dave was offering everybody around a bar of chocolate. Kit Kat. And I thought, I don't believe it. Anyway, I finally caught up with Dave. Where was it, Dave? In Kuwait?
In Kuwait.
In Kuwait. And Dave just had the last bar of chocolate. And he said, here's your bar of chocolate. That's why Dave is fat. That's why And Dave said to me, I don't need your coat anymore. And he gave it back to me. And all the time I was in India, I never needed that once. So I thought after all these years, Dave, you can keep the coat and have the bar of chocolate. That's the bar of chocolate.
Well, I'd forsaken all. You see, I had one thin jacket going out to India. So when I found this, I was praising the Lord. That's a prayer. Fantastic. So I kept warm right through the winter. As we went through Eastern Turkey. Yeah, it used to go around twice.
Well, I could tell you many stories about Dave in India. I mean, I'm not going to, but I'm hoping, as Dave mentioned just now, that perhaps one or two others will say something else about India. But out in India itself, we had a great time together. Just two little incidences. We were driving up to Kashmir. Now, I didn't realise at the time that Dave had only just passed his driving test. Well, he must have done, because we were driving up this mountain on the way up to Kashmir, and there was this big lorry coming behind, and every time this lorry went to overtake, Dave went that way. When the fellow went that way, Dave went back, like that. And I couldn't believe it. One of the OM rules was you don't criticise your driver.
I never looked in the mirror. I didn't know this guy was behind me.
Anyway, when we got to the top, this fella gets out, big seat, comes up, come out here. So Dave said, what's he want, what's he want? I said, well, you know, this fella's been stuck behind you all these, you know, trying to get up here. They said, you go out, you go out. Anyway, I went out and quieted him. And,
hey, you never got out, come on. That was the amplified version.
A little bit later, I thought I'll get my own back on him. And we were by this beautiful swimming pool in Kashmir. It's lovely and warm, although often Kashmir is cold. But it's a beautiful place, Kashmir. And I thought I'll get my own back on Dave for many things. I'll put him in the swimming pool fully clothed. And I got hold of him, and what did he do? He screamed, my glasses, my glasses. As he was lowering me into the pool. So I put him in gently, and would you believe it, he held on to me. We both went in.
Fully cold, and it was freezing.
But I tell you, for 2 years in India, I had a wonderful time. Not just with Dave, but with you and Kathy and Beryl and Mike. It was a real wonderful time, and it's good that you're all here tonight to celebrate Dave's birthday. I know when I had a birthday, As mine was the 40th, wasn't it? And Dave was great. And so it's just good that you're here tonight. It's good that everyone else is here. There was a few others I had invited, and also I was hoping one or two others might phone, but the evening's still young. But I wonder if there's anyone else that's got anything they'd like to say. I mean, Hugh, can you remember anything with Dave? Well, you could probably write a book about him. Or
I have a few stories about each one of you in India. There's another one of you that I can't think of something. I remember with this guy, we hadn't been in India very long, and he was the driver of the big red truck. Oh! We've already told you, I don't know if you were in earlier on, but he went to, we were at this big convention, and it was on an almost dried up riverbed, and as the driver, he took the truck right by the water's edge, and of course it sunk. They tried to get an elephant to come and move it away. But times with that truck, because he was always the driver, another time we were going along, and we had to go under this bridge. It was a very low bridge, but he reckoned the vehicle was just low enough to get under. It was! and it was, to be truthful, but it was an incline going into the tunnel. And with the tunnel being that when the vehicle went down, the wheels went in, and of course that lifted the vehicle. And so it got stuck and smashed through the ceiling of the truck. So that's one story about Hugh. Well, he's already mentioned stories about ourselves there. Only one thing he didn't tell you about, everywhere that Keith went in India, he always seemed to get the girlfriends following him. And sometimes he'd disappear from the OM team and he was round to the girlfriend's house.
Was it the other way around?
Mine! It's my birthday after all. I used to live in Allahabad. This is a famous city in the north of India. It's called Allahabad because it's a Muslim centre, but of course there are many, many Hindus who live there. And Mike occasionally would come to Allahabad and visit me because I was studying in Allahabad University. And one time I was driving his truck. He had this big BYE truck.
It was a very large crowd, was that?
It was a very large crowd.
It was a very large crowd, and I think maybe I'll take over the story. Because for some reason, I guess a lot of these stories are related to driving, but you were driving, I'm not quite sure why we allowed you to drive.
Can I just say something about his driving? He did pass the test in India. India is just a little bit easier to pass the test, and I've got under good authority that Dave passed it by driving round the mango tree twice. Without hitting it. Once. Did you hit it the second time?
I never had to go on the road to pass that test, just in a field. So the story continues.
Sorry, this big crowd. There was one rickshaw, a cycle rickshaw, which I guess it was doing to you what you were doing to that Sikh. It wouldn't get out of the way. Is that right?
Yes.
And so Dave thought that he would just nudge it. to try and give it a hint to get out of the way, but you should never nudge a rickshaw because they're not very strong little vehicles, are they? And so he nudged the wheel of this vehicle, and the wheel just buckled, didn't it? No, it's okay to do that sort of thing if you're not in a crowd, but when you're in a crowd, you can't get away quickly. And there was a whole crowd. I was in the back of this vehicle. I didn't know what was going on. I knew that we had stopped, and I knew there was a lot of noise outside. And then this angry crowd came around to the back of the truck. I thought they were going to lynch us. Because they were very... I forget how you got out of that. You paid them 10 rupees or something?
You probably But it saved our lives.
I just remember that you risked our lives for the sake of that rickshaw wheel.
They were angry, weren't they?
They were upset. When Indian crowds get upset, boy, they get upset.
I remember too when I first got to know Mike Wiltshire. Where's Mike? Yeah. Mike's there. Mike, we'd been on OM just a little bit before Mike joined full time, but Mike was close to OM in probably 1963, yeah?
Yes, right.
Yeah. And then he joined early in '64, and we were on a weekend somewhere. I'm not quite sure where it was any longer, but we were going house to house, you know, the good old OM days where we go house to house selling Christian books. And I remember Mike turning up. with great big holes in his socks. As his feet slipped out of his shoe, you could see these great holes. And I remember in those days I had 2 pairs of socks. So I was able to donate 1 pair to mine. One story I should tell, we were together with Alf. And with Alf we went just about all over India together. And I had learned to drive this VW van. So I passed my test in this field, and as a result, the van was mine. So I had to drive it just about everywhere. And Alf and I were asked to take this vehicle out of the country, because every 6 months, all the OM vehicles had to leave the country, being foreign vehicles, you see. They were on a carnet system. And either you drive up into Nepal, or you drive out into Pakistan or Bangladesh. Well, George said he wanted us to experiment with what it might cost to take it to Sri Lanka. So we put this vehicle on board a ship in Madras, and that sailed, and we were then to go down to the southernmost tip of India and take the ferry over to Sri Lanka. And we had to have our jabs, because you're going to another country, so you'd have to get these. And, we got these Russian vaccines, didn't we? And we'd only had them a few minutes, and I felt I was just dragging my feet around the town. And Alf was he was fine, nothing wrong with this. And I'm looking at him in great hero worship. He was telling me, well, Dave, when I was your age, I was boxing, I kept myself fit. I thought, boy, what a fantastic guy, I should really take this up. However, it didn't last long, and he was in the same condition as me. So we were both dragging our feet around the streets of Madras. Then we took the train, went down to as far south as you can go, and we took the last boat that was going over to Sri Lanka, because that's the time when the hurricanes come and the typhoons go up between the Straits of India and Sri Lanka. So we got the last boat over there. And when we arrived on the other side, the customs man, he took one look at me, and he told me to take everything out of my bag. And so I literally had to tip everything out, and I got so upset. Most of you know that I'm a calm person, but rarely you'll find me with an upset personality. And I got really angry with this guy, because he must have thought we were smuggling things in. And he was as calm as a cucumber. Anyway, we spent about a month there in Sri Lanka, and then it was time to come back. And there were no more boats going across because of typhoon season. So I thought, well, at least we don't have to go on that boat and face those customs again. So this was my very first flight I'd ever made. Went out to the airport, and we had to go through customs there. I could not believe it. The very same man was standing there. He took one look at me, he said, everything out. I got upset. Of course, I could tell you too at the time that we were going out on the streets every day, selling books to make to eat every day. We stayed at the home of one of the managers of Lipton's Tea, didn't we? That's right, yeah. And on this farm that he had, there was an alligator. We never saw it, but there was one somewhere down there. And this fellow was very rich, so he'd give us his chauffeur car every day. So the chauffeur would drive us downtown, and then he'd stop, and we'd open the boot, pull out a big suitcase full of OM books, say goodbye to the chauffeur, and set our bookstall up on the street. Unbelievable. Then in the evening, the chauffeur would come back and pick us up. And we visited the YMCA. Yes. Do you remember these fellas approached this guy and tried to get him to smuggle precious gems back into England? They were going to fly you back to do just that. Which I'm still doing. And he's done very well on it ever since. So we have many, many stories. I don't know if anyone else has some stories. Mike, you must have some stories.
Well, I've got so many. Actually, most of them are very embarrassing, Dave, and this is a special day for you. So the thing about David, though, I think we'll all agree, we all know and love David, is he's a true Barnabas. And in those early days in India, when we were very, very poor, you know, I'm not saying the work has changed, but in those days we had nothing. And Dave was always such an inspiration and an encouragement. And I've noticed even through the years when he's had terrible bad times. I remember you lost all your equipment, was stolen, your video equipment. You remember that? He could still smile about it. And David has had the experience of loss, haven't you, with cars and equipment. And he manages to keep smiling, and I've just always felt that David is one of those special people. You know, if we could all be like Dave. I know you probably have your down moments, but we don't often see them. And I think you're a tremendous encouragement.
I think I'm about to have one.
But the thing is, we did go through some really tough times together when we had very, very little. I remember, do you remember Conrad Songgregor? Conrad was a Swiss brother on the team, and he decided he was going to live on even less than we were. And he decided he was going to live on bananas. And we were on the teams. And he went on a banana-only diet. And then we ended up spending tens of thousands of rupees in convalescent fees. As he was sent off to recuperate. But I actually, David, all those that time you were in Allahabad University, I always felt slightly guilty because we were in the plush life in Bombay, and being in the sort of central office, we had access to funds and could have pudding. And so,
after 30 years.
And Dave, you were suffering up there in Allahabad. I never did find out what you qualified in. But anyway.
Psychology.
Well, actually, I didn't do too bad because selling things was never too big a problem. So I got the OM books and I used to sell them. I go down to the local shops in Allahabad and sell them there. Sell them to the university library, sell them to students. In actual fact, I lived on 200 rupees a month,
right,
which in those days was £10.
Yes.
And that was good living then. Well, so I was amongst the richest students.
You always were a brilliant salesperson, and you and Al's nephew,
Vic.
I often feel that the fact that OM has had a couple of ships that a few million people have been reached for Christ on, it basically goes back to the fact that a couple of guys really knew how to sell books on the pavement in India, because it was the EBE vision, educational book exhibits, that was the sort of cover for the ship ministry. And here in Bromley, George Verwer asked me to invent a brochure for a ship that didn't exist. And I wrote a brochure with phony photographs in called Educational Book Exhibits. And we had a picture of a ship that we didn't yet own called the Logos. Well, it was then called the Umanate. But we used that brochure. But the inspiration really went back to India, to Vic and to people like Dave, who were flogging books on the pavement. And we realized that that was the perfect entrance for a ship to get to foreign countries. And of course, in every port we went to with the ship, all the port dues, all the fees, which were quite high, were paid from book sales. And it's still as it is today, isn't it? And so, Dave, where are you along?
Not long ago, I met a fellow. He said, "Oh, Brother Dave, I still have a pile of books at home you sold me."
Do you remember the time, Dave, when we were going uphill with the van, and it was all muddy, and the back wheels were slithering towards the edge of a cliff?
Where was it, Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka.
Oh yes, I was scared then.
I was sitting at the back trying to hold the wheels still, and I kept slithering towards the edge with a 1,200-foot drop, you know, right on. The wheels right on the edge.
Tea gardens.
I was laughing my head off.
I was scared, and I was falling asleep, so we didn't know that.
I keep looking back. Well, I was right on the edge.
And it was really, literally, only a few days or a few weeks before that I'd passed this test in the field in England.
That's right.
And this was my boss.
And then the snake that climbed up the wall and they got him with an iron bar.
Right outside our bedroom in Sri Lanka, where we were staying. We'd just come back from selling our books in town, and the farmhands had just killed a king cobra right outside our bedroom window. 1,000 ants were there already. Having evening meal.
Another man he'd have been inside. There's an open window.
Well, there's a few people, Dave, that would have liked to have been here tonight, but couldn't be. But they sent a fax instead.
Oh!
There you go.
Goodness me. Happy birthday. 50. Wow. We thought you were at least 60. Oh. Have a great day, Philip. Happy birthday to Vakran, Usha, Ashish. Keep young, Alfie.
Alfie.
Alfie. Oh, Alfie. What a guy. 50 today. Have fun. Keith Danby. Oh, Danby's out there, isn't he?
Yes.
Kid Bai. Oh, Gaia. Wish a happy birthday and many happy returns. Rajandran and Primla.
It's not all of them, but it's the ones.
Okay. May this day come several more times in your life and bring joy to your family. Who is that at the bottom?
When you reach the 100 mark.
Anuj.
Oh, Anuj. That's right. Okay, Anuj. Where is Mike's little ditty? That's a scroll there. That one. Let's. Thank you. Oh, actually, why don't you just pass us whatever we've got there in the way of these prezzies, and let's just see what we've got. Good.
This is your next
Oh
chapter.
my goodness me. Right. I haven't opened all these. Let's open them quickly. Some of these I've already opened. It might not. Your name might be no longer connected to them. 50 today. Don't worry about having another birthday. Only the best stories of sequels. Happy 50th birthday. And everybody seems to have written on this one. Great day.
This chap said he's sorry he couldn't come today, but he's busy preaching for the
That
next
George
2
and
years.
Drina. Oh, very good.
You see this one over here? Right.
50. Welcome to the club. The joy of the Lord with you. Oh, Ray Iker. Who got this done? What a guy. So many folks. No, they're all OMers.
If anyone hasn't signed
and
it,
treasure all of these.
Sign it.
I think this is from the Morrises, the friendship book. Is that right? The cryptic remarks? No, okay. I'll take your word for it. I won't read it all to you now, but there's there and
That's for us too, for you to get.
oh, very good. For putting photographs in. Thank you. The Morrises. What else have we got here? We've got a CD from the Wakeleys, and it's one of my favourite pieces. This Symphony No. 9, the New World Symphony. That's good. I've got Merci, Herbie Vielfalt. This is looks like Swiss or German chocolate. That from Gordon and Margaret, is that right? Yes, lovely. I'll eat that on my own. This one's from Alf and Brenda. I haven't looked that in. Oh, very good. Look at this.
That's a special one as well, Dave.
A Parker pen.
Wow.
And if you know Alf and Brenda, they probably write more letters than anybody you've ever met. You can always be sure, every now and then, of getting regular letters from Alf and Brenda. And Brenda's turned out to be every bit as much the writer as Alf always was. And there's your card.
Maybe it's a sign, then.
Pardon?
Maybe it's a sign that we should write back.
Okay, well, I'm sure it is. We've not got everything out of there yet, have we? Usually there's rude remarks from these two, so I'd better be careful. Because you're all youngsters now. Oh, there you are. Now you're over 50. You know you're over 50 when? Oh, I see. There's lots of things I'm going to know.
The policeman say, let me help you over the side of the road, son.
I'm going to sit there and enjoy that. You'll have to come around and read it too. And this is full of all kinds of things. Oh, it's all downhill from here on. And on and on. Enjoy it fondly. Ridders and Brenda.
There's some on the back.
Oh, there's a lot more on the back. But Mike has waxed lyrical here. Monsieur Wakely, wife Justine, an ode to our old friend Dane. You're only 50 once. We must confess, last year, I must tell you, and you'll understand the background of this, Matilda gave me another surprise when she invited me out for a meal on my 49th birthday. And when we got there, certain people, like tonight, turned up for the meal. And Mike obviously thought that that was my 5th year. You're only 50 once. We must confess, dear Dave, our friend, that this time last year we did spend a pleasant hour to celebrate your birthday on this very date. I guess my memory must be poor, for I was really very sure that then we met to feast and dine your first birthday plus 49. Maybe in fact upon this date you plan each year to celebrate. 5 times 10 years hasten by. May I say I do not lie, for us it is a joy without measure to celebrate this annual pleasure. With affectionate appreciation from your even older friends, Mike and Shelley. Something to go on the wall. What can we say? I mean, it's an absolute surprise. I didn't expect this at all. I was surprised this morning when Matilda told me that she was inviting me for breakfast at a fancy hotel downtown, and when we got there, numbers of you also appeared on the scene, and especially Keith jumped out from behind a pillar with the old video camera. So I thought that was the surprise. Tonight, coming along, I thought we were coming for a nice, quiet birthday meal together with the Locks. But then you all turned up. And as I look around, each one of you have actually played a vital part in our lives somewhere along the way over these past, now 30-odd years. So I want to say, you have enriched our lives. But most of all, Matilda, come on, you're sitting in the background. Let me come and give you a big kiss. Give her a big hand.
Thank you.
And she's the one who's put this book together, and again, a total surprise to me, although I shouldn't be surprised knowing what Snooky's like. But you're the dearest dear I have in this life.
Special to all of us. It's very special. And I must say, the nicest thing is that Dave has an even temperament. The way he is now, he's also tomorrow, and that probably was the biggest thing. I always, when I did get married, I had one fear: when is the tomorrow coming? And that never came. So that is nice.
Will tomorrow. That battery's going on forever, isn't it? I have to get one of those.
He's going to show you all a video afterwards.
50.
I sit down here.
Let's read the
You should be
scripture.
with him.
I'm with you. Yes.
And the king of Syria warred against Israel. History doesn't change much, does it? And took counsel with his servants, saying, in such and such a place shall be my camp. In other words, I'll set an ambush in that particular spot. And the man of God sent unto the king of Israel. Notice you've got 3 characters: the king of Syria, the man of God, and the king of Israel. And the man of God said to the king of Israel, beware that you pass not such a place, for there the Syrians have set an ambush for you. And the king of Israel didn't question the references of the man of God, but he sent to the place where the man of God had warned him, and saved himself there not once nor twice, but many times. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was very troubled for this thing. I think the Bible has got some wonderful understatements. And I would say that the king said he was more than troubled. I would say he was up the pole. Stark, stirred mad with frustration. And he called his servants and he said to them, which of you is the traitor? Which of you has been betraying me to the king of Israel? And one of his servants said to him, it's not us, O Lord, our king, but it's Elisha, the prophet that is in Israel. He tells the king of Israel the things that you speak in your bedchamber. Hugging devices. I wonder how that was done. How could the prophet tell the king of Israel the things which the king of Syria is planning against Israel? However, that's what was happening. And the king of Syria said, go and see where he is, as I may send and find him. And it was told him, behold, he's in Dothan. Therefore, sent he horses and chariots and a great host, and they came by night and encompassed the city about. And when the servant of the man of God, which was early, had gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And the servant, looking from the flat roof of the house down in the valley, turned to his master Elisha, and he said, alas, master, what on earth shall we do? And Elisha answered and said to the young man, fear not, for they who are with us are more than they who are with them. Now there was a writer in the New Testament writing the book of Romans, and he wrote a verse similar to this, and the verse he wrote was, if God be for us, who can be against us? And I'm sure he took it from here, because of course they had that writing then. And that's what Elisha said to the young man, fear not, for they that were for us are far greater than those that be with them. And Elisha prayed, and he said, Lord, I pray thee, take away this source. No, he didn't say that. Open this young man's eyes, that he may see. And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain, not the valley, but the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. And so on. And of course we know that the victory came. Now the thought I have in my mind is this, that this story, I believe, illustrates a tremendous truth, and that is that most of us in our understanding of the Christian message and the Christian faith, we know that Christ has been crucified, buried, raised, and that he's now at God's right hand. But I don't think any of us appreciate the value of the high priestly intercessory work that Christ is in heaven for. I believe it's every bit as necessary for the redemption of God's people as his redemptive work upon earth. For we have a high priest who ever liveth to intercede for us at God's right hand. We're subject to all the attacks of Satan. There'll be many situations, we all have them, and we all will have them. And perhaps some of you are in them now, where Satan seeks to undermine you and destroy you and discourage you, and you may be passing through discouragement now. And that will happen, and it's all part of the purpose that God has for you, that we might learn to depend upon the high priest who knows exactly what the enemy's doing, who knows his tactics, and who knows exactly how to intercede. And though you may have to pass through fiery trials and difficulties, yet you can be sure of this, the high priest will make sure that you come through it, because he's interceding for you. He's watching over you. And he's the only one that can truly defeat Satan. And that's why Elisha was able to tell the king of Israel the things which the king of Syria was planning in his bedchamber. There's nothing Satan can do will frustrate or undergird in any way the purposes of God. God's purposes will work out. And when they came to that village of Dothan, and the young man went up on the roof and saw the valley full of the horses and chariots of Syria, he got very discouraged. Haven't you often looked at your problems and thought, I'm never going to get over them? And haven't you looked at the way in which you can't sell your house, and you can't buy this, and you can't do that? That's too much for me. Well, what God did in that situation was, he didn't take away the host. He left the host there, and Elisha said, Lord, open this young man's eyes. And when the young man's eyes were opened, he didn't see the valley, he saw the mountains full of the chariots of fire of the Lord. And you in your life, and I in my life, if we can daily see that if God be for us, who can be against us, then we'll have no fear of whatever circumstance we may have to pass through. Because if God is for us, Satan can't be against us. He may devise us, he may do all sorts of things to discourage, but we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. And the mountains are ever and always full of the chariots of the Lord. And where Elisha gained the victory, while the young man saw the mountains full of God's chariots, so we in our day and generation need to know that too. And I believe too that discouragements which may be meeting you now, and at the moment Dave is passing through a discouragement, can't sell his house, and he's in a twixt between getting another place and selling his own place, and there's all sorts of giants and problems in it. But the Lord knows all about it, exactly every circumstance, and He's prepared the future. And sometimes, as we mentioned just before, today is the tomorrow we worried about yesterday. We get all perplexed and all worried about the things of tomorrow, instead of leaving it with His hands and saying, Lord, you deal with the situation. You know it, I don't. I mentioned to somebody else this evening too, a lovely verse which has often been an encouragement to me. You may have heard it or you may have sang it. Not till the loom is silent and the shuttle cease to fly, shall God unroll the canvas and explain the reason why. The dark threads are as needful in the weaver's skillful hand as the threads of gold and silver in the pattern He has planned. And you may be passing through a dull, difficult patch. You may be passing through a patch in the pattern which is very difficult to decipher. But when the loom's finished and the pattern's turned over, you'll see it's perfect. Every part of your life, circumstance in your life, is a part of God's will and God's purpose for you. So let's take courage and let's realise that if God is for us, who can be against us?
Well, this has been some birthday. It came with a bang that took me all by storm. I knew that we were going out to London's Langham Hilton for breakfast, but I didn't know that a whole bunch of you were going to join me there. And then Matilda did it again in the evening at Keith's house. It was some special day, and I want to say thanks to those of you who made it so special. To you who came, to those of you who sent a telegram or a fax, for those of you who telephoned, and for those of you who signed birthday cards. A very big thanks to Keith and Christine and all the helpers who not only opened your home, but also you opened your hearts. Serving Jesus has taken us to countries all over the world, and I want to say thanks to those of you who didn't even know it was my birthday, but you've contributed to my life and enriched it. Thanks to Jesus for you all. Finally, of course, a big thanks to Matilda. I thank God for her over and over again. He gave me a great wife and a real winner. If this has been anything to go by, being 50 is going to be a whole lot of fun. In fact, I must admit I don't really feel like 50. I only feel like 49. So, thanks and God bless you all.